미 중서부 경제의 중심인 일리노이주 시카고에서 노스웨스턴 갤러그 경영대학원생들과 함께 만나보십시오. 메이저리그의 최연소 구단주 두 분입니다. 1년 만에 최강의 스포츠 프랜차이즈 산업을 이뤄낸 워싱턴 레드스킨스의 다니엘 스나이더.
Fast-paced organization, putting together what we consider a first-class team.
댈러스 매버릭스의 주인이자 인터넷 억만장자 마크 쿠반.
I'd rather do one thing right and winning a championship for the Mavs is that one thing I need to do first.
스포츠 산업의 변화를 일으킨 두 분의 CEO를 만나보시죠.
Exclusive national funding for this program is provided by A.T. Kearney, a global management consulting firm helping businesses achieve results with capabilities in strategy, operations, and technology. A.T. Kearney, right there with you.
이제 사회자이자 CNN의 상임 분석가인 제프 그린필드를 만나보시죠.
Thank you. Welcome to CEO Exchange. You know, you've read this story in a dozen books. You've seen it in 100 movies. There's this shy kid in the back of the room in high school, the kid nobody notices, but while the quarterback or the basketball captain gets the cheers and the dates, this quiet kid is nurturing a fierce hunger for work, for success, for money, maybe lots of it. And if the story's bold enough, in a couple of decades, that shy kid is a brash, sometimes controversial multimillionaire. Okay, maybe he's a billionaire, and he winds up owning a major league ball club. Too corny, too hokey. You're about to meet two real-life examples. Mark Cuban is one of the original moguls of the dot-com age. The company that he co-founded, Broadcast.com, showed the world that webcasting, the broadcasting of real-time audio and video over the internet, was possible. Cuban was already a self-made millionaire when he launched Broadcast.com with about $5,000 in seed money. 4 years later, he sold it to Yahoo for about $6 billion. That's a feat that landed Cuban on the Forbes 400 list of richest Americans just about the time he turned 40. We'll be talking to Mark Cuban later in the program. But first, you're going to meet Danial Snyder, owner of the Washington Redskins. When he paid $800 million for that team in 1999, Snyder instantly found himself the target of white-hot media scrutiny. This 35-year-old, surely the youngest owner of any major league franchise, had been an entrepreneur since childhood who built Snyder Communications into an advertising and marketing company that he sold for more than $2 billion. From his very first days with the Redskins, Snyder's take-no-prisoner style and his high-priced star signings brought him praise and brought him attack. According to Forbes magazine, his policies made the Redskins the most valuable sports team in America.
만약 화려한 활동도 점수에 매겨진다면 워싱턴의 레드스킨스는 경기를 하지 않아도 슈퍼볼에서 우승할 겁니다. 경기장 안팎에서 레드스킨스의 구단주인 다니엘 스나이더는 1999년 팀을 매입한 후 많은 화제거리를 낳았죠. 화끈하고 현실적인 35살의 그는 미국 프로축구계의 가장 어린 구단주입니다. 스나이더와 투자자들이 레드스킨스와 경기장에 지불한 $80만 달러는 스포츠 사상 최고의 금액입니다. 스나이더는 프리 에이전트 스타들과 드리프트 선수들에게 돈을 후하게 쓰는 편이라서 팀 전체 급료가 1억 불이라는 최고의 기록을 세웠죠.
In sports, it's all about winning, and it's all about making your fans comfortable and letting them have a good time while we're winning.
광고와 마케팅으로 수억 달러를 벌어들인 스나이더는 새로운 수익을 만들어낼 방법을 생각하고 있습니다. 스나이더는 입장권 가격을 리그 사상 최고로 올렸고 한 시즌당 $3,000 하는 초호화 좌석을 3,000석이나 늘렸습니다. 그는 레드스킨스 경기장의 명칭권을 패텍스에게 27년간 넘기기로 하고 $2억 달러를 받았습니다. 경기장 곳곳에 광고판을 붙여 미 프로풋볼 사상 최고라는 $2억 달러가량의 총 수익을 거둬들였죠.
He's raised the value of the Redskins some 20% or more since he took over the team.
스나이더에게는 이런 승승장구가 자연스러운 일입니다. 31살 때 그는 뉴욕증권거래소에서 최연소 CEO였죠. 자신의 광고와 마케팅 회사인 스나이더 커뮤니케이션이 거래소에 상장되자 스나이더는 21억 달러의 프랑스 미디어 거대 기업인 아바스의 회사를 팔았습니다. 스나이더 커뮤니케이션은 틈새 시장에 집중하는 니치 마케팅으로 성장을 했습니다. 예를 들자면 진료실이나 기업 로비에 걸려있는 벽 게시판을 이용하는 방식을 썼습니다. 20대 초반 때 스나이더는 새로운 고객에게 접근하는 자신만의 방식으로 세계 거대 기업들을 공격했습니다. 예를 들자면 선불 전화 카드에 광고를 넣는 식이었죠. 그리고 스나이더는 끊임없이 회사를 성장시켜 폭스바겐의 광고를 맡고 있던 에이전시인 아미 커뮤니케이션을 삼켜버림으로써 사람들을 놀래켰습니다.
All I want to do is create a business. All I want to do with the Redskins is win. We have very simplistic goals. They don't revolve around the money side. The money comes with success. You don't strive for the money, and that's a case where you're going to fail.
다니엘 스나이더에게도 돈 많은 젊은 천재로 불리기 전에 과거가 있습니다. 수줍고 얌전했던 스나이더는 어렸을 때부터 레드스킨스에 대한 애정을 품고 있었죠.
Not just my current passion, it's been a lifelong passion.
스나이더는 일에도 애정이 대단합니다. 메릴랜드 근교의 고등학교를 졸업한 후 대학을 중퇴한 스나이더는 이미 20대 초반에 100만 달러를 벌어들입니다. 봄방학을 맞이한 대학생들을 상대로 전국적인 전세 버스 서비스 사업을 한 것이죠.
He's just tenacious. I mean, he latched on to a decent idea early on and he just stuck with it.
스나이더는 나스닥에 상장된 의료 마케팅 회사인 벤티브 헬스의 회장도 맡았습니다. 인터넷 마케팅 회사인 서클닷컴에도 상당한 주식을 갖고 있죠. 현재 스나이더가 중점을 두는 것은 레드스킨스를 드림팀으로 만드는 겁니다.
My hands-on involvement in the Redskins, I think, to some degree, is necessary. And from that standpoint, everything we're trying to do and make the stadium first class, make it user-friendly, make it fan-friendly, it takes a little bit of hands-on experience.
찌는 듯한 날씨에도 스나이더는 경기가 있거나 연습하는 날이면 어김없이 경기장에 나타나죠.
The guy came up from average middle-class America, didn't graduate from college, and he's come a phenomenal way in 15 years.
경기의 결과가 어떻든 간에 다니엘 스나이더의 지위는 계속될 겁니다.
Ladies and gentlemen, the former chairman and CEO of Snyder Communications and the owner of the Washington Redskins, Danial Snyder. Welcome.
Thank you.
Didn't know there were that many Redskins fans near Chicago.
They're everywhere.
If there's a reason to sympathize with someone who at your age has built what you've built, it's that I get the sense that sometimes stories get told about you and they instantly become locked in stone.
I think they instantly become exaggerated.
Okay.
Actually.
The one that's always told, always, is that you're this young boy in Silver Spring, Maryland, your dad's a writer, not people of means, but you're a passionate Redskins fan.
Sure.
There comes a time when you say, as a, I don't know how old, 6 years old, you look at that TV and you say, someday I'm going to be rich enough to own that team.
Never said that.
Never?
No, never said that. It was more, I just wanted to create a business and never thought I'd own the Redskins and never dreamed about owning the Redskins.
Okay. But that you actually said once in a moment of frustration, someday I'm going to buy this team and fix it. How true is that?
It's actually all fans say, if I owned the team, I would fire X, Y, and Z.
Yes, but most of us don't actually get to that. So I want to take you back to a more fundamental question. Here you are in high school, and you once said of yourself you were never voted the most likely anything.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Okay. Now, you know that in the
and I'm a college dropout too, so I have to let everybody know.
You know, I cannot tell you how many of the most powerful CEOs who've come here turn to the MBA audience and say, by the way, I never finished college.
Right.
It must be very reassuring to this crowd. You're not a star in high school. You're not particularly, most likely, anything. And you see the sports heroes and the prom kings and the prom queens and all of that. And it's kind of like sand in an oyster. But it's a way of saying, I'm going to show them someday. Anything to that?
No, not when it comes to me. What drove me is always creating something, and one of the things that I think is different between being an entrepreneur and being someone who wants to make a lot of money is the entrepreneur wants to create something.
What's the first thing you created? Because you started work pretty early.
I started actually in college at the University of Maryland. I started a tour business, taking kids to sporting events, and they're called sports tours, and it ended up that the spring break side of it ended up being a much bigger business for us. But we started off in all sorts of different tours and ended up with hundreds and hundreds of employees.
Did you ever go on spring break with them?
No, I think
Okay. Now,
you're not supposed to mix the business and the pleasure.
well, I understand that. But, you know, this may be one of the things that marks folks like you apart from the rest of us. That is, it never, here you are chartering planes. Presumably you could have found a place for yourself to go and party.
Sure, but there was revenue by that seat.
Now we're on to something here, Daniel. If you're staying home on spring break when your fellow students are out playing on the beach, that's telling us something interesting. That
Sure.
You weren't prepared. You were there to make that business grow.
Well, a business, fundamentals of a business, and I think to some degree, your scoreboard, in a sense, is accomplishment is the financial side. Creating it is sort of the goal, but how well do you do is measured in today's society by your quarterly earnings or your what's your performance in your stock or what have you. And for me, creating a business was the same.
And what then begins to emerge is a series of enterprises that, as far as I can tell, don't have a whole lot in common with each other, except that nobody had done them. Would that be fair?
That's probably
I
accurate,
mean,
yeah.
you're creating wall boards to put on college bulletin boards. You're taking diapers to new mothers.
Yes.
Now, this almost sounds like somebody who has a lighthouse light scanning the horizon and hitting on anything that a niche, literally, that nobody's filled before.
We used to sit and have weekly meetings of which niche shall we go after next. In each niche, we'd make jokes. We said each niche should be a $5 million niche. And we'd go after each one, and one by one, and we'd add up the money and the pieces and go after the sponsors. And whether it be Procter & Gamble or Kellogg's or whatever the company was, we were always focused on let's build these niche segments, businesses. They worked.
How do you do that? How do you look around? I mean, how do you look around and say, I know what's not being met right now. It's
tiny little market segments that were left. I realized also I saw the world changing. I was young and fresh and innovative. From that standpoint, we saw working parents and all sorts of trends coming up, multiculturalism. Every single trend we could capture.
So in other words, for instance, you would notice that lots of women were no longer at home to watch ads in the daytime because they were out working. You had to reach them another way.
Absolutely. We were at the infancy of the boom of daycare. Boy, that's a great market. Let's figure out a way to get that. So everything we did was it was sort of capturing these trend lines as they grew, and we saw that the aging baby boomer demographics were coming on strong. So that meant there's going to be a lot more diabetic patients, a lot more cancer patients, et cetera. And how do we capture those market segments?
Okay. And this business grows and grows and grows. Now, in this period, how many days a week would you say you worked on the average?
7.
Vacations? Take many vacations?
No, I didn't. I've never done vacations very well.
Is it a cost, though, when you look back and think, I mean...
I've always been an individualist and very different than the norm in the sense that I'll give you an example. I used to be embarrassed. A decade ago, I would tell people and say, I've got to stop by my office, and I'd have that uncomfortable feeling of having to explain to a friend who's going to a barbecue that I'm going to my office to work. And I would say, I'm just going to go by for a few hours. In reality, I was going to the office at 7:30 in the morning, and I'd come home at 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday. And nowadays, I'm no longer embarrassed to say, it's very passionate. I enjoy work. There's nothing to be ashamed of. To me, the only thing I took any time off, substantial time, was I had a lifelong passion of football. So I would sit at my desk and watch the Redskins and cheer my heart out as I was actually trying to create a company as well.
And so now that's your company.
Yes.
Okay. But just one question, because it will be like a coming attraction.
Sure.
You did make all kinds of decisions as the CEO of Snyder Communications. Some good, maybe some not so good, some that might have been considered harsh, some that might have been considered generous. Frankly, nobody outside the company gave a rat's anatomical
Nobody
portion.
cared.
Did it Did it shock you, even as smart as you are, that you now own the Redskins, this institution, and a business decision that would have gone absolutely unnoticed a year earlier is now front page news, and you are at the center of some very unpleasant comments?
Very, very shocking. I think that I wasn't prepared for that. I never understood that. And I bought a lot of companies, done a lot of mergers, done a lot of deals. And when you do a deal, you can't have two accounting departments when you're trying to merge two companies. It just doesn't work. You can't have two CFOs. So you put them together, you have to do some cutbacks, generally get some savings. You generally make the math work better and better by doing that. When I took over the Redskins, I came in, I said, all right, we won't make any changes until we get there and decide what we're going to do with the business. So we made a bunch of statements about coming into the business, got in, and I found out that their PR department wasn't what I would like. Having come from an advertising PR background, put some of my own people in there. And when you do that, you're not prepared for front of the Washington Post, where they investigate Watergate, to start talking about Dan Snyder fired 9 employees in a PR department. In the world of business, as I think everybody knows here, decisions are made every day. In the world of sports, decisions are generally made over decades.
Well, we've got a lot more to talk about what you learned as the owner of the Redskins, and you'll be back with us in a minute. For now, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Dan Snyder.
Thank you.
Danial Snyder will, I promise, be back later in the program. But now let me introduce you to Mark Cuban. He's the owner of the NBA's Dallas Mavericks. He's a self-described computer geek, and he's a major Maverick himself. And he still keeps a pair of oversized jeans in his parents' closet, which is a reminder of how much his physical and financial life, I guess, has changed. It seems that one way or another, Cuban is always living large. A billionaire before he was 40. Last year, he bought the NBA's perennial also-ran Dallas Mavericks, and with it, an enormous challenge to sell round ball to a football-crazed community, which is something right up there with selling ice cubes in Alaska.
이 호화 저택을 가까이서 보시면 인기 드라마 댈러스가 생각날 분도 계시겠군요. 하지만 이곳은 드라마 속 저택이 아니라 한 야구 구단주의 집입니다. 670평이 넘는 이곳은 댈러스 매버릭스 야구팀의 구단주이자 인터넷 재벌인 마크 쿠번의 집입니다. 대부분의 방에는 가구들이 거의 없습니다. 이 화려한 방은 쿠번이 휘프볼 코트로 사용한다고 합니다. 손님방을 지나 저택 밖으로 나가볼까요? 수영장이 있고 그 뒤에 있는 농구 코트로 가보면 이곳의 주인을 만나게 될 것입니다. 농구장에서나 인터넷에서나 마크 쿠번은 언제나 색다른 방법으로 경기를 하죠.
I'm pretty much a cynic. I'm risk averse, but more than that, I'd rather do one thing right, and winning a championship for the Mavs is that one thing I need to do first. Then a lot of other things are easy to do.
쿠번은 실적이 저조했던 매버릭스를 NBA 사상 최고 가격인 2억 8천만 달러로 사들였습니다. 쿠번이 성공한 사연은 미국에서도 극히 이례적인 경우입니다. 러시아 이민자의 손자였던 그는 피츠버그의 노동자 집안에서 자라났습니다. 쿠번의 아버지는 자동차 실내 장식업을 했죠. 인디애나 대학에서 경영학을 전공했던 쿠번은 열렬한 농구 팬이었습니다. 그는 졸업한 후 소프트웨어 가게에서 일을 하며 컴퓨터에 빠지게 됐죠. 그리고 자신이 세운 마이크로 솔루션이라는 컴퓨터 컨설팅 회사를 31살이던 1990년에 컴퓨서브에 매각하면서 백만장자가 되었습니다. 쿠번은 그 재산을 이용해서 1995년 대학 동창인 토드 와그너와 브로드캐스터닷컴을 설립하게 됩니다.
He basically blurted out, wouldn't it be great if we could listen to Indiana basketball over the internet? And I was like, wow, that's a pretty cool idea. And so he was like, you're the geek. You go figure out a way to make it happen. I'm like, okay, that sounds like a deal.
곧이어 그들은 수백 개의 대학과 프로팀들을 등록시키고 전 세계 팬들에게 경기를 들을 수 있게 했습니다.
Back then, people looked at this postage stamp-sized image on a TV screen, and the movements were jerky, and they said, "Is this as good as it gets?" And so they were fairly skeptical. These guys saw beyond that. What they said was, "It's never going to be any worse than this. It's only going to get better."
브로드캐스터닷컴의 수익의 대부분은 새로운 제품을 소개한다거나 주주들과 사이버 미팅을 하는 기업 고객에게서 나옵니다.
Good Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the New York Analyst Meeting.
브로드캐스트닷컴은 1998년 일반에게 공개되면서 또 한 번 인터넷 열풍을 일으켰습니다. 당시로서는 최고의 공모주였죠. 1년 후 최고의 자리에 오른 회사는 60억 불에 육박하는 가격으로 야후에 팔렸습니다. 그 과정에서 마크 쿠번의 재산은 3배로 불어났죠. 이제 농구에만 모든 관심을 쏟고 있는 쿠번은 매버릭스 팀의 우승만 바라고 있습니다. 이제 자신이 원하는 대로 시간과 돈을 쓸 수 있는 위치에 올랐으니까요.
When it's all said and done, I've gotten comfortable here, and it's great playing basketball out front, and it's great having beer in lots of different places, and it's great having nice machines to make drinks, and it meets my needs.
역시 최고가 되기 위해 힘들게 노력하면 그 대가는 자연스럽게 따라오는가 보군요.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, Mark Cuban.
How you doing?
Good to see you. Have a seat.
Thanks.
So, where does a 12-year-old kid decide, all right, I'm going to make some extra money, and here's what I'm going to do it?
Well,
take us through that decision.
I mean, I grew up in the traditional blue-collar family. My dad played poker with his buddies every Wednesday or Thursday nights. And even back then, I was a basketball junkie. And so I was like, Dad, I need to get some new tennis shoes. He's like, when you have a job, you can buy whatever you want, including tennis shoes. I'm like, well, I'm 12 years old. I can't get a job. And of course, he and his buddies were sitting there playing cards, drinking beer, snickering. Oh, we can think of something. And I didn't know any better. So one of his buddies chimed in, why don't you sell garbage bags door to door? I'm like, that's a good idea. So I had the world's first garbage bag route, and I made some good money. I mean, who's going to say no to a little 12-year-old kid selling garbage bags?
You weren't raised in a family, at least overtly, of entrepreneurs, right?
No, not at all.
So, at the risk of asking you to self-psychologicalize yourself, as George Bush might say, where do you think this came from?
I think once I got a taste of the fact that I could sell and that I could become self-sufficient, it just was self-reinforcing. It didn't take a rocket scientist to say, wow, this is working. And if it was working, then I just continued to go with it.
Was part of it that, okay, I can't compete on the athletic field, can't compete in these other areas that say the coolest guys can, but by God, I can compete in the art of selling it.
I was 12 years old. I was not psychologicalizing myself that way back then. It was
no,
just...
but you were hustling garbage bags.
Yes, I was, but that's what it was.
Okay.
To me, it wasn't hustling. It was just something that I knew that I could do. It just fit.
Your entrepreneurial skills in college, I want to talk about because some of them strike me as inventive. I think the statute of limitations has expired at this.
Thank you.
Chain letter?
Yeah, that's how I paid for my junior year of college.
I mean, the classic kind of chain letter, send this to a friend, put $10 in the envelope?
It was a 50 and 50 deal. They call it like the airplane chain letter. You go out and you got somebody to put $50 in an envelope and send it to the first name on the list and, the whole 9 yards. And then, I went to school in Indiana and I would just wake up, I'd go to the mailbox and collect my money. I paid my tuition and I'd go drink some beer. It was a good year.
But you also had, again, I read these stories and I wonder how much of this is myth, but it sounds, so far, like it's pretty real. The idea of running what we would now call raves, renting out an armory for dances?
Oh, we used to have some great parties. Literally, we would rent out the armory at Bloomington, and we would make $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a party. And then we'd use local bars and rent them out, and we'd keep the cover charge. It was good business. And then finally, my senior year, I just said, look, we might as well just buy a bar. And so I took some of the money I made there, took some financial aid money, started a bar.
The point here is clearly you were not on a track to get your degree, get an MBA, started a company.
Well, yes and no. I always knew that I was going to run my own company. I always knew that I was going to try to do things differently than other people because it always worked for me. You talked about getting your MBA. I started taking MBA classes when I was 18. I snuck into the MBA level statistics class, K503, at Indiana University when I was 18, got an A in it. And it wasn't until the the dean came up to me and said, "What the hell are you doing in these classes?" You know, I was 19 years old and had almost half my MBA done, and I was having a great time, you know. So I knew that I needed the knowledge. I just knew that I always wasn't going to take the traditional path.
So then we now have you at a very young age, right? Maybe early 20s, and you're in Dallas.
23, yeah.
And you start a computer company or a software company or a
Micro Solutions, a systems integration company.
And you know a whole lot about this, right?
Not a whole lot at all.
I mean, what you do, if I read the story right, is basically you're like the substitute teacher who was one chapter ahead of the class.
Well, it was new to everybody. This was 82, basically. And this was when Lotus 1-2-3 first came out. It was when the IBM PC first came out. And I realized everybody knew as much as I did, which was nothing. And so if I just hustled and learned more and learned faster and really dove in and focused on learning it better, then I had a chance to accomplish something.
If we're trying to generalize or draw entrepreneurial lessons from this very early experience with Micro Solutions, if there are one or two that you'd say, here's what I knew then that's still critical to me and to any entrepreneur, what is it?
Sweat equity is the best source of equity ever. I mean, when I started Micro Solutions, I was living 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment. I didn't have my own bed. I didn't have my own closet. Sometimes I had my own pillow. You know, I was living off $128 a month. I had a job waiting for me as a bartender if it didn't work. And I just dove into it. And slowly but surely, I built up one customer after another after another. I wasn't beholden to anybody except my customers. And those were the lessons I've learned. At broadcast.com, the same thing played out. I didn't just go out there and raise money. I put my own effort into it and knew that if I focused enough and spent the time, I could turn it into something.
As you look back now, does it take some almost glandular asset that folks like you have that just does not permit them to see that it's almost impossible that this will work?
I had nothing to lose. What were they going to do, put me with another 6 guys in a separate 3-bedroom apartment, you know? I had everything to gain, you know, and because of that, every step I took, I remember thinking, okay, I've been in business 3 months. I've been in business 6 months. I'm living. I've got $15,000 in accounts receivable. I can make it. And I just reached these little points of confidence. But I realized early on that if I could take care of my customers and work harder than anybody to know more than anybody else, I was going to succeed.
And indeed, about 10 years ago, you sold this company to CompuServe for several $1 million.
Yeah, that was I brought in a partner, so for about $5 million we sold.
And then what? I mean, now there are some people who would take that $3 million and it's seed money. You look like you took a little bit of time and just said, I have a lot of vacation time coming and I'm going to take it.
Oh, I took a lot of time.
So you spend $125,000, if I read right, on a lifetime American Airlines pass. Lets you fly free anywhere in the world.
And yes, I did.
But was that coach or first class?
First class. I just sold the company. Me and my buddies were sitting at a steakhouse, and they're like, you know, we're just pounding shots. And I'm like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I want to get a lifetime pass. And I was just drunk enough, you know, and I called. And they had it, so it worked.
All right, so you work hard, you play hard, and I want to move us up to this story, which, again, sounds like something out of you know, one of those success magazines, but I gather it's true. It's 1995. You and Todd Wagner are sitting in Dallas, and you say, gee, I'd sure like to hear the Indiana University basketball games here in Dallas, but nobody's broadcasting them.
Actually, that's what Todd said.
Todd said.
Yeah, he's like, there's got to be a market, there's got to be a business out of broadcasting sports using this internet
So
thing.
this, from the get-go, you know, this could be an interesting business.
Yeah.
I mean, was there a point at which you looked up and said, we are riding a tiger here?
At the point when we started getting emails all over the world from people saying, hey, I'm a Texas Tech alum and I'm in Korea, and we're having tailgate parties at 3 in the morning to listen to Texas Tech football. We just realized we just changed the nature of communications.
But at the point when Yahoo came to you, when they told you how much in stock and options they were prepared to pay, which the published reports are $5.7 billion.
I love that number.
Did you think, hurry up and do this before they change their mind? Or
Hell
no?
yes, I did. You know, I mean, it wasn't like, oh, this is my baby. It was like, come on, let's go.
But there might be another reason to say that apart from the obvious one, which is, you know, just as we look at the .com world, pop.com has gone pop, pseudo.com has shut down. Looking back, did you sell at the right time, or would broadcast.com be a thriving, going concern, you think, right now?
Oh, we'd be thriving. I mean, no question. I mean, I told the guys at Pseudo, I told the guys at Pop, I told the guys at Dan that they were going out of business. They had no revenue model. When you looked at broadcast.com, one of the reasons Yahoo bought us wasn't so much for technical expertise, but the fact that we had, out of 300 and a few employees, 130 salespeople. We could control our own destiny, and that's critical, and I think that's what a lot of internet companies miss.
And the last coming attraction before we bring Danial Snyder into, you know, I know you're older, but he may be the grown-up in this, so I don't know.
Hey, now.
Buying the Dallas Mavericks, let me just put the same question to you I put Daniel. Fundamentally, a business decision or a what-the-hell decision? This is going to be the most fun I could possibly have.
Passion decision. This is going to be the most fun I could possibly have. No question about it.
Well, that is among the subjects we're going to talk to, and we're going to invite Danial Snyder. Come on down and join us, Daniel. Welcome back. Thank you.
Why is it that internet guys never wear ties?
I can't figure why people wear ties in the first place.
I've got to ask this question this way. You're 6 years younger. You're several $100 billion richer. Any sense of jealousy? Do you feel competitive with him? Do you feel competitive with him?
I didn't realize that until you pointed it out, actually.
You've actually said, you know, that's a fairly familiar line, that money is like a scoreboard, right?
Yeah, I think Dan
Yeah, I said that as well. Yeah.
So is he winning?
I don't think it's a scoreboard against. I don't think it's a scoreboard against other businesses and other. It's more of your own scoreboard. It's an individual way to look at things.
You're both young, certainly based on what you've achieved. Do either of you intend to sort of stop your business work at this point?
Nope.
I mean, I only do things that are fun.
I understand.
But
yeah. Well, I just want to rent out his house for a party. The ballroom. But
at this point, to have a continued entrepreneurial zest, it can't be about accumulating money, can it? Not where you guys are.
No. It's about having fun. It's about being passionate. If it's boring, I'm not interested. If it entails a tremendous amount of time, I'm probably not interested as well. Our lifelong fantasy is to own our local sports team. It's an unusual occurrence for I think both of us. We're probably the two youngest owners in the United States of sports franchise. And with that, it's not your average norm.
Here's the point. We look at Mark, and we can look at him and we say, he's got to be having fun. He's got an open neck shirt. Look at him, you know. And when we see you, you're in a suit, you're in a tie, you go to the office, and for you, that's
I look
fun?
like you, right?
I know. Exactly. I couldn't have put it better myself.
I just wanted to make you feel comfortable.
No,
and
I
actually,
appreciate it.
I got my Redskins sweats and stuff outside.
Okay.
I'm going to put on the way out.
there you go.
But it would be wrong, what I'm getting at is it would be wrong to look at his life and your life, his dressing, and say, he's the guy who's having all the fun and you're the workaholic.
I think probably if you look at both of us, we're both workaholics. He obviously, neither of us won the lotto. Would have been nice,
Yeah,
but we
very
didn't.
nice.
But we didn't. I think if you look when he talks about 7 years without a vacation, 7 years without, I guarantee you those were not 6-hour days. Right. And the common thread is that we both worked at early ages. I still like the garbage bag thing at 12. That's really interesting.
Niche marketing.
Well, yeah, really.
I just did iced tea and stuff on the side of the street.
It seems to me that to be a very wealthy person and then to buy a sports franchise, it's like handing somebody a club and saying, why don't you hit me right here? Pete Vesey, who's one of the edgier sports writers in New York, said, I think he was talking maybe about you, he said there's nothing more dangerous than a billionaire with too much time in his hands to hang around a field all day. I mean, look, let's just put it on the table.
There's one thing more dangerous, an idiot with a pen, and that's, there you go.
Fair enough. That's what you hear.
Cheers here.
But you know, as former fans without franchises, how easy it is. And sometimes, look, I'm from New York where we have George Steinbrenner. You know, and there's this sense that these are egomaniacs with a checkbook who bought a team for some kind of, you know, psychological reason. They can be on the field, you know, in spirit or something like that. So my question is, not is it true, because I don't suspect either of you think it is, but how do you deal with it?
It just comes with the territory. You develop thick skin. You start to realize that, as Mark said, there's a lot of individuals out there that couldn't make it in other areas, that writing for some XYZ paper in some XYZ county newspaper somewhere, that's what they do. And they take shots because they're somewhat envious. There's a little bit of envy in some of the people with individuals with pens. On the other hand, some of the criticism's warranted. I've been criticized, and I've told some of them I've made mistakes. I'm learning. I just bought the team. It's going to take me a while to figure it out. Hopefully not too long, but a while.
I look at that fan, I said, thank you. I said, thank you for being so passionate that you get in such an uproar and your hair turns gray over the whole matter, because I know you care. So it's, over time, those things dissipate, you know, the newness, the challenges, the changes. But if you're going to continue to be a fan, please criticize me, yell at me, scream at me, email me, but just care, and I'm happy.
One of the things we do on the show is we pose questions to our guests from faculty. This is the question. It comes from Professor Bob Duncan, who is the Richard Thomas Professor of Leadership and Change.
Today's business leaders often use the sports coach, who is no nonsense, tells people what to do, plays mind games, as the ideal leader. How does this really apply in today's business environment, where a leader has to create commitment, cooperation, getting people to challenge the organization and the status quo?
I think you build your organization around the players, around the employees. I don't think you can be dictatorial. I don't think you can just set an agenda and tell everybody to conform to your agenda, particularly in a .com world, because there's people competing for your employees to take them from you every day, and there's teams competing, you know, waiting for your players to become free agents. So you have to create an environment where people feel they'll become successful and create a roadmap for their success.
Everything I've done in my business has always been finding the best people, letting them do what they do best. And the same thing goes in sports and business. There's no difference whatsoever.
So you both consider yourself more collegial than authoritative type or authoritarian leaders?
I think I'm a dictator when I lead. I really do. But at the same point, I set the direction, and to Dan's point, you bring in the best. And I try to give them the tools they need to be the best and set them in that direction, and then let them go.
Well, I want to now focus us more on this question about what it means to be an entrepreneur. And we're going to talk some about business and some about the business you were in and the business you are in. Neither of you, I'm not sure if you accept this point or not, but neither of you were inventors in the sense that you created something out of whole cloth. You weren't, you know, Thomas Edison or even Bill Gates. You had good ideas, and you got other people to work with you and back you. What's the difference between coming up with a great idea and making it reality? Is it just a matter of hard work? What do you think? Either of you.
I think that hard work's everything. People always say they want to be wealthy. That's very different than they want to create something. If you look at what Mark's done or my business, both of us, yes, we're not inventing, whether it be the internet or inventing advertising and marketing, but both of us put a lot of hard work and dedication into creating something out of nothing, a business out of nothing.
What's happening in sports, I think, is so apropos to what Daniel was saying. What I love about watching Daniel in action, in the NBA, for the other owners that I've had a chance to interact with, they look at making money as cutting costs. You've got TV, you've got your revenue from ticket sales and sponsorships, and then everything else is just a cost, cut your costs. I look at Daniel, he's like, create a revenue source, and that's exactly what I've been trying to do with the Mavericks. To me, being an entrepreneur is not just working hard, but continuously improving, never just sitting back and saying, here we are, never thinking you're smart, always thinking there's someone ready to kick you in the butt, and always looking to improve and get an advantage.
But even entrepreneurs who can work very, very hard can fail, right?
Sure. You need a little luck. Nothing wrong with luck.
Oh, yeah.
You need luck in sports.
What was the luckiest thing that happened to you in your business?
The stock market going bananas.
Because what?
No, because. I mean, it's just, you know, who would have thunk that these internet stocks would go and have these valuations?
What do you think the luckiest thing was that happened?
I think the Redskins coming up for sale.
Here's a question about entrepreneurship from Professor Stephen Rogers, who is Clinical Professor of Entrepreneurial Finance and Management.
Up to this point, we've been talking a lot about entrepreneurship. Both of you young men have had great entrepreneurial success. You've taken your respective companies public. Do you indeed plan to take your professional sports teams public? If not, why not?
No.
Hell no.
It's bad. We talk about the press aspect. It's bad enough, yet alone the quarterlies, and they wouldn't match. You can't financially, and I think, I don't know about, I can't speak for Mark, but from the Redskins' position, it is not the type of public growth rates that people were looking for in my previous businesses.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You have distinct goals. You know, you have a Wall Street goal and you have a winning goal, and they might not both match up. And I don't want to have to deal. I've had to deal with Wall Street. Goodbye, Wall Street. Hello, sports.
What I want to talk about in our last segment is the business of sports, because it's fraught with possibilities and dangers and all that sort of stuff. I just want to start with the Redskins. You now have a team with the biggest stadium, biggest number of seats ballpark. Sure. You've got a couple of thousand front row seats that you've added, about 1,000, where the ticket price for the season is about $2,500?
We added some more club seats, about 3,000 apiece. Yeah.
Okay, now I read that in the new arena that the Mavericks are going to play in, I assume it's the American Airlines Arena?
Center. Yeah, American Airlines Center.
Right, because nothing's named after anything but companies anymore, right?
Exactly.
Okay. You're thinking of having a data port at every seat.
Right.
Right, like here, right?
Right.
Where Joe Fan can come in with his PDA,
right,
plug it in.
You'll just bring your little PDA, plug it into a little USB 2.0 port.
Of course.
That'll be in your seat, for those of you geekoids out there. And, you know, Michael Finley dunks over Shaquille O'Neal. You say, wow, I want to order that and add it to my video collection. Here's my PIN number. Either download it to me or send it to me. You go to a concert, you want to have the whole thing downloaded to you, you know, $2.99, I'll just take it home with me. Bits are bits, and they're so easy to transport that it...
I got to write these down.
I was going to say, I thought I saw a gleam in that eye. Is he onto something here?
We're just trying to win some football games.
You've also suggested that if somebody notices an attractive person in Section 302B, you'll enable them to communicate by
Well, I mean,
PDA.
everybody here probably uses instant messaging. You know, if you've got gigabit or 100 megabits to your seat, if you see a good-looking woman or good-looking guy and, you know, they're signed up as part of the register, it's going to be like, okay, Section A123.
I told you he plays hard. Now, you've had your own notions about how to enhance the revenue stream. One of them, I should go back to this, when you started charging people to come to training camp, this was not greeted with universal praise in Washington, right?
Well, it was the first time that training camp was done what we'll call professional from a standpoint of marketing, and professional from fan-friendly and what they get. And in fact, a lot of the owners of other teams, including other sports, our local Wizards owners, they all came over to look as well. And what they found was that we put an extravaganza up in terms of the NFL experience, the same one from the Super Bowl, where they charge you $35 to get in. That was never in the press, because obviously the press doesn't like to
I wondered about that,
like
because in fact this was a value
We charged
added.
$10.
You were giving them a lot more.
We lost money on it. You know, to us, the mistake was doing anything. We tried too hard. And to some degree, we're not sure what we're going to do in the future. We may just make it a private practice, and you know, it's just not worth the heat.
But to broaden this out a bit, there are folks who look at sports and say there's an irresistible force against an immovable object. That in fact, the notion of an expanding revenue base in an area when there is so much more competition, not just sports, but all kinds of things, computer games, I mean, you know the list way better than I do. And are we going to be at a point where at some point something's going to give? Broadcast rights, players' salaries, ticket prices? No.
Nope. At least in the NBA, there's been so little that has changed. I'll give you the perfect example. Our guys, 7 foot and above, we got one guy, Sean Bradley, 7'6". He sits in the same folding chairs that have been used on the sidelines for the last 50 years. I thought, you know what? Let's get some specially designed chairs made. No one had ever done it. We did some homework. Let's patent them. Let's get a manufacturing deal done. Let's get some advertisers. So now we've got a nice little side company that goes out. We're going to sell them to high school teams and college teams and sports teams. There's so many opportunities that because things have always been done the same old way, whether it's a training camp or whatever it may be, that there are untapped revenue opportunities and profit opportunities.
I've got the
taking
same
notes
problem.
on this guy.
No, I got the same problem. I have my offensive line starts at 310 pounds, and I know what he's talking about. It's actually true, and it is right on. We actually have in a lot of our coaches' rooms little tiny chairs for humans like us.
See,
Okay.
I got a customer.
There you go. This never stops. But let me ask this question by Professor Christy Nordhelm.
I'd like to ask both of you how you see sports marketing as differing from marketing in general. In other words, how is marketing a box of detergent different than marketing an NFL football team?
I think it's very different. There's more passion involved at the customer, the fan level, and you have to respect that passion. And when that fan writes you that email or sends me that letter or what have you, to some degree, you owe them a response. Even if their letter is nasty, even if their letter is pointing out to fire XYZ in the team and get rid of this player that we don't like. And we try our best to look at it from a passion perspective. That's very different than when you try to push a pharmaceutical product through a doctor's office, which I do with my company, Ventive Health.
Yeah, same. I mean, you leverage the passion. What hasn't been done, at least in the NBA, is leveraging that passion. It would always, the passion sale was always, you just put it out there and the fan's going to buy it sooner or later, and we're trying to change that as well. We're trying to expand that. We're trying to come with multiple tiers of brands and really using the net, using one-on-one sales, using door-to-door sales, whatever we can, getting into that person's face and sell them the product.
Okay. So let me wrap this section up. I think I figured out the right way to ask this question since we're near Chicago. If you own the Cubs, a team whose record of futility is almost unmatched in professional sports.
Does it have to be the Cubs?
Well, it does have to be the Cubs. But they have a great ballpark. They have an incredibly loyal fan base. I think they make money. They pack that little stadium. It's a joyous experience. If you own the Cubs, knowing that because they insulted God 100 years ago or whatever, they would never win, but they would provide a wonderful experience, would you be happy?
I'd be miserable.
Would you be happy?
More than miserable.
Well, that's probably where you are, and I am where I am. In a minute, we're going to turn to some questions from our audience here at Northwestern. But first, we want to show you some background on the Kellogg Graduate School of Management.
미시건 호수를 따라 1마일가량 뻗어있는 노스웨스턴 대학은 2000년에 150주년을 맞이했습니다. 1908년 노스웨스턴 대학에서 야간 코스로 경영학을 가르치게 된 것이 지금의 켈로그 경영대학원의 탄생을 가져왔죠. 현재 미국 최고의 경영대학원 중 하나인 이곳 학생 수는 1200명이 넘으며 그중 31%는 여학생입니다. 켈로그 경영대학원은 비즈니스 위크지가 뽑은 미국 최고의 경영대학원에서 2위를 차지했습니다.
Now I'd like to invite our audience of future business leaders to ask their questions to our guests. Step up to the mic, state your name first, and then your question. Go ahead.
Hello, gentlemen. My name is Amari Lubb. I'm a second year here. This question is for both of you. How would you advise us as young MBAs, me specifically, to leverage our experience, our education, and to try to break through that mold and get jobs in front offices with teams such as yours?
Start low, work up hard. I mean, there's no shortcuts. If anybody who's come to me asks for a job, how do I get into sports marketing? It's always been, get a job as an intern at a local minor league affiliate or a local college and start building your network of people and get good references. There are really no shortcuts unless you're somebody's son, and somehow it doesn't look like we're related. I don't. That's the eyes, that's right.
My name is John Newhouse. Like you, I'm a huge sports fan. I'm wondering whether or not you think the salary cap has truly improved competitive balance or if it has hindered the ability to put an excellent team on the field. I'm particularly interested because I'm wondering if you think baseball should take on a salary cap.
Well, I think the Yankees have won the World Series how many times? And they're the highest payroll, the highest revenue team. Speaking from the standpoint of I believe the highest revenue team in the NFL, I believe in parity, even though from my standpoint we'd probably be that elite if there wasn't the salary cap and revenue share, which is combining to give us a greatness of parity in the NFL. So I believe in it, even though it may make my job a little bit more difficult to win. That's okay. It comes with the business. It also is something that I cherish. I like the competitive aspect.
Absolutely. I think a salary cap is needed. It does impact your ability just to go out and buy a team, but at the same time, it removes the act of desperation from some teams, because there would be people that would make some mistakes that could impact the future of the league, impact the future of their team, cause a lot of franchise movement, and I think that's not a good thing. So even though it might slow us down as an organization in achieving our goals for the greater good, I think it's much needed.
Name, question?
Hi, my name is Ryan McKinney, and the question I had was, in buying your sports franchises, do you feel like you are building something from nothing? Do you feel like you found a niche? What is it that you're really looking for, and what's driving that?
You know, the reality is when you don't make the playoffs for 10 straight years and your best season in those 10 years is 40 wins, you feel like you're doing something from nothing. But to me, that was,
By the way, it's harder than doing something from nothing. I think Mark's challenge is one of greatness. I think you're going to see some greatness come out of Dallas.
Well, yeah, he's right, because there's the attitude, the city is down on you, the expectations are that, you know, you're not ever going to be able to accomplish anything, because that's been the experience for the previous 10 years. But to me, that was an opportunity. I'd much rather have bought the Dallas Mavericks, knowing there's only one way to go, as opposed to buying the Lakers, who just won a championship last year. Because then, you know, either you maintain or you go down, and it's a much more difficult business situation.
Name, question.
Hi, my name is Megan Lewis. I'm a first-year student here at Kellogg. And I have a question for Mr. Snyder. I'm wondering if you could please comment on the controversy surrounding your team's mascot and name, and how that affects the brand of your team.
Well, it doesn't really affect the brand of the team. The Redskins are a tradition. It was named in 1937 by actually a Native American Indian coach, which obviously is not in the press because that's not glamorous. The logo of the Washington Redskins was designed also by a Native American Indian. What it really stands for is success, is courage, is bravery. The previous name of the team was the Washington Braves. So with that, I intend to honor that and keep that tradition going for many, many tens of years.
My name is Peter Chaudhary. I'm a second-year student here. And I'm wondering, Dan, if your level of involvement is actually hurting the team by detracting the focus from your team and actually putting it on yourself.
Yeah, I think the best way to answer it is just with the results. And I'll give you a little bit of history. The Washington Redskins hadn't made the playoffs for, I think it was 7 years. We made the playoffs after my first year. We had a small drive in the playoffs. Hopefully we'll have a better one in the future. But everything is about results, and whether I'm involved or not involved, and I'm not involved on a daily basis. I don't watch film with the coaches. I don't sit in their team meetings. I've never been to their training camp hotel where they stayed for a month. I think it's inappropriate on my part, and each owner should speak for himself. But from the standpoint of the results, I think you know, both Mark and I in 10 years and 20 years will be judged for how many wins and how many championships.
Oh, I'll shoot with them. I'll travel with the team. I'll stay in the same hotels. I want to know the experience that they're going through. As I said, things in the NBA haven't changed for the last 50 years. You know, y'all have traveled, and you know there's a difference between sleeping on a styrofoam pillow and sleeping on a nice pillow. There's a difference between staying someplace where you can get room service at 2 in the morning when you have to get up at 7 versus having to roam the streets to find a Subway that's still open. Do I sit in there and go through film with coaches? Yep. You know why? Because every bit of film that they went through was just that, a tape. We were doing recruiting and analyzing draftees for this last year's draft. And they're like, throw in the Michigan Duke tape. I'm like, you're throwing in tapes? I'm like, no more. Now we're digitizing everything. You want to do a search for a certain player, you just put it up there. You want... But I never would have known these things unless I'd been there.
And it sounds a little unusual, and I'll give you an example that really plays on what Mark's saying. Is when I was looking through financials and into the detail, I saw this line item on training camp as evaluating the training camp issues, and it said rental of beds. So I said, what does this mean? We have a lot of big men that weigh 350 pounds, offensive, defensive linemen, etc. 90% of our entire team were trying to rent beds in Frostburg and move them into the dormitories because the dormitories were not air conditioned and too small for the frame of a professional football player. One of the cost items, we rented a Hilton for our team for this training camp. And if you look at that difference in the number of players that have made the comment to me about saying how great this is, I can finally sleep during training camp, you would ask, okay, you got this $75 million payroll, and they're sleeping on beds where their feet hang out 1 foot.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Our time is up, and we've come to the end of this broadcast. I want to thank my guest, Danial Snyder, owner of the Washington Redskins, Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks of the NBA. Thank you both for joining us. We hope this conversation has added something to the world's marketplace of ideas, because in the end, that is the business of CEO Exchange. I'm Jeff Greenfield. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Right here.
My hero.
My hero.
Mark, nice to meet you.
I'm Leo, nice to meet you.
Hey, Leo, pleasure's mine.
Time. It's on our side. Over time, we'll be the old guys. But right now, we're young, too aggressive, and they don't like that.
Well, if I handed you guys $1 million or $1 billion and a sports team, would you do it any differently? Just go out there and have fun, right?
With that, Jim here is going to take you outside.
Yeah, we got to talk. Good luck, kid.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
And if you just go out there and find the things you love, then good things will happen.
Give me a big hug.
You got a big hug, baby.
You're actually one of my best friends. What do you think?
You are styling, baby.
Listen, we graduated. All right. We're in.
It's close I ever came to an NBA degree.
Where's our degree?